don't need Netflix, you don't need cable. Hop on YouTube, welcome to the hood table, where we chop up local and global events for you don't really wanna miss out on these conversations. Just joke a little, laugh a little, get that wine in your system, fill your glass a little, expose current events, talk trash a little. You never know, these opinions might clash a little. They addicted to the content, got them binge watching. You don't like it, then you want invited. Bet your friends watching in the house and your job parking lot before you clocking. They don't wanna miss a second of this HD content. Everybody think they got something to say, so it's an open invitation, bring it to the table. But if you come whack, just know we ain't buying in. We gon' probably turn your back and tell you sorry, try again. Yeah, welcome to the hood table. You don't need Netflix, you don't need cable. Yeah, welcome to the hood table. You don't need Netflix, you don't need cable.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hood Table one more again. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure, as usual, make sure you hit the like button, hit the share button, and of course, subscribe to the Hood Table channel if you are not already a subscriber. And we do also have a membership program, so that join button right next to the button that says subscribe. Hit that button and you too can become a member of the Hood Table Squad. And on that note, everybody, let's get into this recap review of my version of I Do, which is a movie that I just recently checked out. It was made in this year, 2020. It's about a 2-hour movie. It is for mature audiences. Just want to throw that out there. It is also a Spanish drama movie. And the main stars in the movie is Luis Tosar, who plays Gonzalo, a white man who is working with the government to try to save elephants so they won't be killed for their tusks from poachers. Also, his daughter, Ana Castillo, she plays Sandra. His daughter is a strange daughter who is on drugs that he's trying to save. Also, there's Alvaro Cervantes, who plays Mateo. Mustafa Amaro, who plays Adu. The main character that we're going to focus on is Adu, and he's a little African boy. And his sister, we're going to focus mainly on them. And we're also going to focus on Adam Narul, who plays Masar, who becomes friends with Adu. So this movie, it takes place in a Spanish town near Northern Africa called Melilla. And it's about a child named Adu who takes a painful journey. It's about a father who reconnects with his daughter. It's about a Coast Guard who is guilt-stricken. But along those many different storylines, we're going to basically focus on the one with Adu. Now, again, this movie, it takes place in Spain, in a small location called Melilla near Spain, which is on the northern Africa continent. It takes place actually in several different locations. They scene to scene. You don't know where they're going to wind up. But the movie starts off at the European Union's border with Morocco, called Melilla. And there you see at the beginning hundreds, if not thousands of people, Africans trying to cross the border illegally in search for a better life. One person in particular was holding a passport, and the next thing you know, he falls to his death. And some of the Coast Guards were forced to stand trial for the death of that man. That is one of the storylines. Again, we are going to focus on the main storyline of this movie, which is how a small boy and a little girl who are siblings accidentally come across some elephant poachers who are killing elephants for their tusks, which happens to be, again, illegal. And once the kids realize that somebody has saw them or noticed that other people are around who's watching them through the forest, they are spotted by the poachers, and the kids take off. They run away. They get back home. But one of the men in particular came across their bicycle. One of the men in particular who came across their bicycle happens to be a friend of their mother. The reason why they know each other is because that man oftentimes provides certain amenities or certain supplies, to their mother. And after the kids escape and they go home and their mom, she goes off on them. What are you guys doing over there? At nighttime, later that night, the house gets raided. The kids, they seek refuge. They start hiding, in the house. They manage to escape the house, but their mother's left in the house, and she is beaten and then shot to death. All because they are looking for the children. Because the man who found the bike, he knows the bike belongs to them because of the fact that he oftentimes visits their mother. But again, the kids managed to escape. Now, not only was the poachers looking for these kids to perhaps kill them, which is what I believe, but also their white man by the name of Gonzalo, who was working for the government, to try to protect these elephants. He's also looking for them. He's actually looking for the owner of the bike. So he don't know who they are. He just was looking for the owner of the bike to get a witness to prosecute the poachers. And where the movie goes from there is absolutely mind-blowing. The storyline is beautiful, but very, very painful. If you are like me and you get emotional from seeing people suffer, then you might want to grab a box of Kleenex. Keep a box of Kleenex nearby if you're going to watch this movie. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this movie, but there are many things that I'm not going to tell you. If you want to check this movie out, feel free, because I do highly recommend this movie. I didn't expect to be so moved from this movie, but I was. And the movie, movies that really touch me, I definitely have to always recommend to others. So, with that being said, after the kids escape, they basically start running, fighting for their lives. And then while trying to hitch a ride, guess who drives past them and basically ignores them and leaves them right there on the side of the road? The white man, the one who was actually trying to find the owner of the bike, the owner who may have possibly witnessed the murder of the elephant by the poachers. So the kids, they keep on trucking. They end up actually finding a ride in a truck to hitch a ride with. So after that, they managed to find their way to somebody who knows their father, and their father, who lives in Spain, which is it's eyesight across the shore, so it's not really far if they get there by boat. But their father, who lives in Spain, he pays for somebody to bring them to him. But on the way there, somebody gets a little bit greedy and keeps the money and drops the kids off at an airport. And I'm thinking, he's like, you guys are going to catch a plane. It's better. You guys are going to get there faster. And so I'm thinking, the man that took the money and bought them some plane tickets. But then again, I'm thinking, how they go afford plane tickets? And this is like a very poor area that they're living in. And the guy tells them, there's been a change of plans and they need to run across the tarmac, jump into the wheel area of the plane. And since it's going to be really, really cold up there, the man threw them some tattered clothes, a little blanket, as if that was supposed to keep them up there warm. He said, take this. This is what you need because it's going to be mighty cold up there in the air. I'm like, is he serious? And I'm like, are they really going to get up on that plane? And by the daughter's expression, I'm thinking, she's not. But then she was like, this is the only way to go. And the little boy, Adu, is like, no, I don't want to go. Anyway, next thing you see them on the plane, they done ran across the tarmac, jumped up into the big hole where the wheel, lifts up, jumped up in the whole area, the wheel area of the plane, and settled down, for the ride. And the thing about it, though, before they left that man at the side of the road, the expression on that little girl's face was priceless. That had to be the meanest mean mug I have ever seen a child possess. Because although her brother Adu didn't quite understand what was happening nor what was about to take place, she was old enough and smart enough to know that their father had been taken advantage of and that man don't give a shit about their survival. Only the money, which is very scarce in that area. So anyway, the next thing you know, they run across the tarmac, they jump up into the wheel area of the plane, and they settle down for the ride. And it's really, really cold. Before they even lift off the ground, it's really, really cold. So she hands her brother some clothes, little tattered sweater. They have a thin blanket. He's like, I'm cold, sis, I'm cold. And she's like, okay, we're going to huddle down. We're going to, this ride, we should be there soon. Let's just try to stay warm together. So they huddle together and they try to stay warm together. After that, I'm thinking, these kids, they're so small, these tattered clothing, their frail bodies, they are not going to make it up in there with them cold temps. I just knew it wasn't going to turn out well. But they fall asleep. Now, I don't know how long the plane ride was, but by the time the plane is about to land, Adu wakes up, but his sister doesn't. He panics trying to wake her, and she falls over hard like a rock, hard as a rock. Right then, he realizes my sister is dead. But what happened next? I didn't see it coming, y'all. The next thing you knew, after Adu was shaking his sister and trying to wake her up, and her body fell over and hit the plane like a rock, all you saw was her body just roll over, because of the wind and the gust, the wind, up in the air, and the tires coming down from the hole, and the wind just rolled her body on out the plane, and she's lying face up, just spread eagle, falling through the sky. And Adu, oh my God, the poor little baby. I mean, he was just crying his eyes out. And by the way, this little boy, he looks like he probably might be around, I want to say maybe 5 years old, maybe 6 at the most. I can't see him being bigger than that. But anyway, his sister was probably around the age of 12. But then, after he cries his eyes out, the plane ends up landing. He's just sitting there like, what the heck am I going to do? Eventually, he jumps out of the plane, out of the wheel area of the plane. Somebody who works there notices him, and they see a little boy dropping out the wheel area of the plane, and they like, hold up, wait a minute, what's that? They run out there, see him. He's cold. He oh my God, he just looks really bad. And they like, who are you? He's exhausted. He's hungry. He's freezing. So while they're questioning him, who are you? Where you come from? Why you up here? He passes out. The child passes out right there on the concrete, on the tarmac. So then they take him, to the police station. And that's where he runs into another refugee by the name of Masoor. Now, Masoor, he's a boy, teenager. He looks to be approximately, I'm going to say 15-ish. He looks about to be 15 years old. Light-skinned boy, very handsome. But you can tell he's young. But you can also tell that he has seen and been through some things. But anyway, Masoor, he notices the little boy laying there across from him at the police station. So he starts to entertain him by doing some magic tricks. He has some like golf balls. I don't know if they're golf balls, but they're about the size of golf balls and they're white. And he's like bringing them up out of his throat, like as if he's vomiting the golf balls, and these big old balls come out of his throat. And Adu is just sitting there. He's like, oh my God, he's fascinated. And he asks him, what is that? And Adu tells him, that is what you call magic, which appeared to be nothing Adu has ever heard of before. So in his mind, he has this new word, magic. That word is going to mean a lot in the future of this movie. But shortly after making each other's acquaintance, both boys are put in the back of a truck with other refugees. And while the drivers step out to speak with some people, they end up getting into an argument or a disagreement with some people on the road. I don't know who they are, if there's other policemen or not. I don't know. But before we can find out what's going on, Masoor manages to break the inside of the truck, the handle of the truck, breaks the lock, and him and Adu escape. And then soon after that, we learn of other tricks that Masoor knows how to do. Now, if you didn't think anything else that had already taken place was sad, like the elephant being killed and for their tusks by the poachers, like their mother being beaten and shot to death because the poachers were looking for the children, or like the daughter, Adu's sister, dying on the airplane and falling through the sky. If you didn't think any of that was sad, you might think this will. They soon show Masoor walking along a truck stop because him and Adu, they hungry, they homeless, they have no money. They've been trying to hitch rides with no luck because everybody wants money. So now Masoor is walking along a truck stop, and he notices a man standing outside one of the trucks. The man stares at Masoor from a distance, and he gives them this knowing glance. Knowing glance. Next thing you know, Masur walks slowly to the truck and enters the truck. And I'm sure you can guess what magic might have been going on in that truck. Anywho, Adu was somewhere sleeping in between the trucks, and he woke up in the morning and he noticed Masur wasn't there when he woke up. Then he noticed Masur climbing out of one of the trucks. Adu had the biggest smile on his face when he found Masur, and an even bigger smile once he saw Masur had some money. He told him he had done some magic once again, but this time he done some magic to get them some money for food and to also pay for a ride to where they needed to go. Now, you guys might think this is not magic, this is horrible, but Masur doesn't want Adu to know what he does for money. So he tells him it's magic. Now, while eating inside of a cave where they found refuge and, somewhere to hole up, Adu asked Masur, will he die too, like his sis and like his mother? And Masur assures him that he will not die, but will he? Because several times up to that point in the movie, we notice Masur coughing and looking pretty sick. But Adu, of course, notices none of that. And he still doesn't know too much about Masur besides the fact that he can do magic. So one day, while Masur was juggling tennis balls in hopes of earning more money with his magic tricks, Adu was across the street collecting water for them. And along came this man in this taxi, and he was trying to lure Adu into his taxi car. And yeah, you guessed it. He was one of those pedos. So he had this chocolate, and he's telling Adu, and Adu loves chocolate. So he's like, come get the chocolate. Do you want to go have fun? We can go have fun. We can go play. And I'm thinking, oh my God, please don't taint and tarnish this boy. He is so young. But anyway, we caught on pretty fast that the man was trying to kidnap Adu and take advantage of him. But before that could happen, Masur, he's turning around and he notices while he's juggling his balls, Adu was missing. And he notices the taxi parked down the street, and he hears Adu screaming from the taxi. So he takes off, he rushes down the street, he rescues Adu. And after they are safe back, near the waters where they've been holding up, Masur tells Adu, never again. Don't you ever get into a car with another stranger again. But little Adu, he's kind of confused because he's like, the man was trying to offer him chocolate. He was trying to offer him fun. He told him they could go play. So he's thinking, why can't I do magic like you, Masur? Child, Masur tried to explain him without too much explanation that is not the same kind of magic that man wants, that Masur does, that Adu wants to be involved in. See, Adu thinks this magic is still him swallowing balls, juggling, all kind of other kind of stuff. He don't know what Masur really does. He doesn't know. And Masur has him believing that is magic because after he does it, he ends up with money and they end up eating. And okay. So anywho, Masur, he told him that the magic, which he does with men is different. And then he goes on to explain to him how back in Somalia, men used to force him to dress up like a little girl, put on makeup, and dance for them. And then, of course, they would take advantage of him for their own pleasure. That is when we realized that Masur, at least I don't know if I realized it, but I realized that Masur had HIV or AIDS because, again, he looks really sick. He's really small. He keeps coughing a lot. And I'm sorry, them coughs and him getting in the truck with that trucker and coming out the next morning with money. I mean, it tells us that he was, selling himself. The cough told you right away he had HIV or AIDS. But sick and all, Masur is determined to take care of both of them by any means necessary. So they wind up in a location among a lot of other refugees in like a tent-like refugee campsite location. And then comes this medic, this white lady comes along, because, you know, it's a lot of places like that. They have people who come who do charity work, volunteer work, and they tend to the people who are sick and needy. And as one of the white ladies was tending to Masur, she notices this cough. And then she asks him to raise up his shirt, and she notices all these sores all over his body, all under his shirt. Then she tells him to open his mouth so she can, you know, look into his mouth and check him out and everything. And that's when she says, you really need to go to the hospital, like now, like ASAP, like right now. We need to get you to the hospital. I think she knew right off tops what he was suffering from, but he didn't want to go. I don't know if it was because he figured it's too late. Why go to the hospital? He's like, I don't have money. She's like, it don't matter. So I'm sure they probably would have had some kind of medicine there for him. Or if it was because he didn't want to separate himself from Adu, because Adu had nobody. And who knows if they would have let Adu, you know, come with him to the hospital, or what would happen to Adu, or if they would keep him there, and, you know, because he has HIV or AIDS, you know, and keep him apart from everybody else. So who knows? But anyway, he said, no, I am not going. And he gets up and he finds his way back to his tent. And Adu was watching him at night while he's shivering, you know, under his little thin blanket in the tent, and shivering and coughing. And Adu still doesn't know what's going on, but he knows something's wrong. And so you can see Adu up there, you know, rubbing the top of the blanket, you know, trying to, you know, caress him and pat him and, you know, try to make him feel better. The next morning, Adu wakes up and Masur is nowhere in sight. Again, he's like MIA. And so Adu went to look for Masur and finds him sitting by the shore, looking across the way at Spain, because again, it's an eyesight. The bottom of Spain and the top of Africa, where they are, is like within eyesight of each other, over the shore, over the sea, the beach, the sea. And so he finds him sitting by the shore and he's crying. And when he asks him what's wrong, Masur just said, we have to go. We have to go. Adu was like, how we gonna go? We can't jump the border fence. All the police is up there. You can get killed. You can go to jail. And Masur just tells him, we are not jumping the fence. And that's all he tells him. I'm thinking, how the heck they gonna get there then? Is they gonna sneak into a ferry, sneak into a boat, you know, something like that? Man, later that night, Masur and Adu, they are at the beach, at the shore, at the, you know, the edge of the sea, and they have these big old rubber tires wrapped around their waist, and Masur has a rope tied around and knots. He got it knotted up, you know, attached to his tire. Then he ties the other end attached to Adu's tire. And I'm like, no, they ain't. No, they ain't. These two is gonna get themselves killed trying to cross that sea with tires. But anyway, they set off. They jump into the water, you know, and take off swimming to reach Spain, which again is within eyesight of where they are. Now, me, myself, personally, I kept thinking, what a stupid idea. You guys are going to die in that water. And the next thing you know, the rope that Masur had tied to his tire and attached to Adu's tire snapped, because the water just had made it, you know, so thin. And from them being pulled, you know, by the sea, the water just ate the rope away and it just snapped. So then you see them two, they start to float away from each other. Masur notices that Adu isn't with him and they screaming each other's name out, trying to find each other in the dark, but it's too dark. It's too much water and they couldn't find each other. Then I was thinking, okay, this is where Masur is going to die. He told Adu he is not going to die, but this is where he's going to die. He's probably going to die out in the sea, you know, and I'm thinking, if anybody dies, it got to be Masur, because the story is mainly about Adu, so Adu cannot die out there in the water. But Masur, he actually survived and ended up on the boat of one of the Coast Guards. And Adu, he survived as well. While Masur was up there being taken care of the Coast Guards, he must have told them about Adu, so the Coast Guards, they had the lights and they were shining, you know, on the scene, and they spotted Adu, you know, with the tire around him. So both Mansur and Adu are together once again. And it was so very emotional, y'all. I was like up there like, oh my God. It was so emotional because they both thought each other was dead, but neither one of them had died in the water. But what I didn't understand was what happened next. Both of the boys was taken to the police. And after, you know, driving, you know, to the border, one of the officers tell Mansur to get out of the car. And Mansur and Adu was like, why? What's going on? We supposed to be taken to the Center for Children, you know, where refugee children go. See, the thing is, I guess Mansur isn't quite a child. He might be a teenager, but he is not a child. And I'm just thinking maybe because he is a teenager that maybe he will go to jail because he's old enough, like as if adults, refugees, they sometimes get taken to jail or they get shipped back to where they came from, or you know how it goes. But they said you have to come with us. So Adu was up there crying and screaming, and Mansur was crying and kicking. He tried to run, but they caught him anyway. It was so sad. I was like, ugh. I was just in tears. I was like in tears. I'm like, again, Adu is going to lose somebody again. But you know what? I must have lost it right there because mainly I thought that maybe Adu, you know, he might be taken care of and maybe even eventually adopted. You know, sometimes, you know, African children do get adopted out to movie stars, celebrities, or, you know, just regular folk, you know, in the, you know, better countries or, you know, areas. So I'm thinking, yeah, you know, this might be good for Adu in the end, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe he still might find himself homeless in jail, being taken advantage of by people, you know, bigger than him. But Mansur, would he be taken to a refugee jail perhaps, or maybe even killed himself? But even if none of that happens, what really made me lose it right there was I'm thinking, even if none of that happens, Mansur would definitely eventually die from HIV or AIDS, whichever one it was that he was suffering from. And this will be yet again another person that Adu has lost in his very, very young life. And that is basically my review and my recap of Adu. You guys, this story, this movie, the storylines, I give this movie overall a 10. I do. I give it a 10. And I don't give a lot of things a 10, but I give it a 10. There are other storylines in this movie, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that I skipped around. The movie is about 2 hours long. I think it is a must watch. I'm going to recommend it on Facebook and my Twitter. I definitely recommend this movie. Definitely. So please check it out. It's on Netflix. Please check this movie out. Every now and then I give a Netflix review, a recap, or Hulu review or recap. I would definitely suggest watching this movie. But again, if you can get a little emotional like me, especially about people, you know, who are suffering or people in pain or in poverty, keep a box of Kleenex nearby. But it will be well worth the watch, I promise you. And again, you guys, thanks for tuning in to the Hood Table one more again. Make sure you please like, subscribe, and share this video. And also, if you want to become a part of the Hood Table Squad and get special perks for being a member, make sure you hit that join button. We have 2 levels, a $1.99 level and a $4.99 level. And on that note, stay safe, be blessed, and I'm out. Deuces.